There you go. Yeah. I guess now I will shut it off.
You can put it on do not disturb.
Yeah, in my office.
I put it on do not disturb.
Yeah.
Well, you can see the call come through, but you can't hear it.
I mean, what's in? Yeah.
I ended up going to Congress the other night
All right.
for a high-speed chase.
Oh.
No, one of the dog in the car, he's not getting out of jail anytime soon. But I guess their ACO didn't phone.
Oh.
The state police asked me to come back. So I'll be down.
All right. I guess everybody's here that counts. We'll call the meeting to order.
Can I make a request?
Sure.
This is informational for dog barking, right?
Yeah.
I would like to response from the attorney back in September, read, just so we all understand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't get a copy of that.
Animal control issue on Blueberry Lane. Zach said the town can spend a lot of money on this, but he also suggests that the town recommend to Brian that he file a complaint against the neighbor and the town stay out of it. Brian could do this by filing a nuisance complaint in district court.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we'll start with Matt Randall. Okay, where would you like me to hear you? Any place you like, where they can hear you. Cool, yeah. People want to bring the next one up. Okay. So I'm Matt Randall with the Maine Department of Agriculture. And so the animal welfare program that actually has some jurisdiction over animal control officers and whatnot, but had received mention of this particular concern, and then they passed it off to me. And so I run the agricultural compliance program. And so I've been with the state for a while, 17 years. And when these types of situations have come up in the past, I always get shipped out because there's a difference between keeping farm animals and being a farm. So with being a farm, you generally fall under the ag compliance program, right? Because there's expectations. Those exemptions that you may be granted, you have to deal with things that are on a farm, right? Flies, odors, or dead animals, right? Those types of things. Okay. So the animal welfare program referred it to me. So I've been involved here for the past couple of months. But obviously this is first for me in terms of I'm a public servant, not a public speaker. To be here to try to provide information for any and all in terms of how it's seen and how it's been handled through the course of time. So I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV. I'm not giving legal advice, right? I always say you can put 2 lawyers in a room and come up with 3 legal opinions. That's right. So every one of them maybe cost. But basically, when you look at the animal welfare rule book, it has an exemption for working dogs, right? Or guardian dogs. So what does it mean to be a guardian dog, right? There's expectations now that we just laid out if you're a farm or you have farm animals for those animals and for those owners. But there's also expectations from the dogs, right? They're supposed to be working. They're not supposed to be in the house. They're supposed to be out protecting the animals. Now, what happens quite often is if they bark incessantly, they're not doing their job, right? They're not scaring off any animals that are coming to take your animals or harm them, because the animals get immune to just hearing that barking all the time. And then the owners of the dog also become immune to that because the dogs are going all the time. So it's not saying, hey, wait a minute. The dogs are barking now, I gotta look where they're looking, or put down what I'm doing and go check things, right? Is there something already inside the fence? So these expectations, I guess one would think are fairly straightforward. But sometimes they get overlooked, right? It's kind of like sometimes when you're working on something, you always say, why didn't I start with that simplest thing first? So then there's usually questions asked, like, how many animals are being protected, and how are those animals being kept? How many animals do you need to keep? Because certainly, with exemptions, may change the need for, who's involved in this, right? Are there kennel licenses, breeding licenses, or dog licenses, all of these things, right? So I think it's important to answer those questions of, what are the consequences of having an exemption, and what are the unintended consequences of having an exemption? So we deal with water quality issues all the time. So people will say, well, my well is bad. It must be that farm over there. And there might be a big ravine in between, and that type of thing. And then you go out and find that the dog is tethered right near the wellhead. Well, why is that a problem? Well, a dog stuff has more bacteria than a horse, a human, and a cow combined. Right? Well, that's from one dog. So when you start thinking about that, you start amassing dog stuff, even when you're not gonna. Not like cow horse, right? You can get that away in spring. Dog stuff. I don't know. Then of course it comes down to, as I mentioned, the expectations of the keeper of the farm animals. That's also keeping the dogs and making sure that all the boxes are checked off, if you will, in terms of the animals and their needs, shelter, etc. So I think there are potentially bycatch or unintended consequences with accepting the rules as written. But I would also think that I just sort of mention of some legal involvement. People like files, right? They like paperwork, shoving those files to cover themselves. You folks have to do this daily, weekly. I would think that if you're giving the exemption or you're receiving that exemption, you want to make sure that you've got paperwork to cover yourself, that clean, bill of health or whatever to say. That's what I always say. It's like, if I'm not here tomorrow doing this job, and someone comes in behind me, right, they're going to have the files to go to. But I'm certainly expecting that they would come up with that same answer. And it may be answering those questions that may seem obvious to some, but maybe not to others. And so if you have that, say, we thought about all of these things, and then they're either not applicable or they're covered, right? We're in good standing. I think that's important. So I don't know if I've answered any of the questions, hopefully all, and I can go and sit in the back of the room again. But if not.
Anybody got any questions from?
Matt, which constitutes a farm? Exactly.
So the threshold is pretty low. It's generally considered $2,000 a year. And with that, then of course, you have to have best management practices. So all through our rules are things called BMPs, best management practices. And so with that, some are just across the board, all the same. Doesn't matter if you're front of the room or the back of the room, but some may be specific to your operation in terms of your size, right? There are things that a bigger operation may require that a small operation doesn't. I guess the best example of that would be back to that manure thing. You're a small farm, you probably have a little manure pile. you're a big farm, you may have a big liquid lagoon, right? And that liquid lagoon wouldn't fit on the small farm. And the small farm's little pile wouldn't, look right on that big farm. With that, best management practices are set forth by the Commissioner of Agriculture. Obviously, the commissioner themselves generally don't come out, and that's where I'm just a lucky guy of running the program statewide that oversees those BMPs for the commission. So we can set those at any time as things change, right? So again, a BMP could be slightly different from 4th of July to 1st of January, right? Do different things. So
you're saying that somebody has to have $2,000 income from either selling crops or livestock?
Again, that's a very legal question, but that the general interpretation has been that you have to meet that $2,000 one way or another. But the only nothing's really changed there, with the exception of COVID, right? A lot of people went out and started farms, right? Farms. But it's important to know that just because you have farm animals doesn't make you a farm. You have to do things, right? You can go out and letter your truck, you can put a sign out front, you can have all the apparel, but when push comes to shove, there are expectations that you have to meet to be considered a farm under the state. And so there are few things that have muddied the waters there. The legislature actually put in a bill in terms of right to food. And so that I'm sure will be tested at some point, because somebody will put farm animal in some residential lot, and it will cause enough trouble. That would be quite legal. So that's why I'm glad I work for the Department of Ag, not the Attorney General's office.
Right?
Yeah, the dogs be breed specific or any type of breed. I just know that was a question that was going on Facebook.
Generally speaking, there are breeds rather, dogs that are generally thought of as being protective animals either through their size, through their coat in terms of being able to stay out there when it's cold. Just their instincts, right? So can some other dog breeds be trained up to do it? Sure, I'm not. That's not my area of expertise per se. So I think it obviously has to pass the muster in terms of people that know more about that than I do, right? Pass a straight face test in terms of, right? What are you training this animal to do? What are they doing? Right. So in my time, we had some people that were lawyers and had a small farm going, right? They actually met the financial threshold, had a number of animals. The only problem is the dogs were sleeping in the house at night, right? So that doesn't work. Another one was that the guardian dog was being bothered by something and would only lay on the concrete floor in the barn. I said, yeah, that's what dogs do when it's hot out, right? They want that cool concrete trophy to lay on. So while the dog was trying to take care of itself, it wasn't out, being a typical dog versus being a guard dog. So most of the time we don't see too many of these cases across the state. People actually have working dogs that are doing their full obligation. We have people that quite often they have purchased the animal for that reason or that belief, for that peace of mind for themselves, whatever the case may be. But when push comes to shove, the animal usually isn't doing all that it was intended, to do. You look at that.
Following up on that, what about the guardian dog also being a hunting dog? Is that, I mean, it's a very gray area there. I know dogs can have multiple jobs, but those two jobs seem to be in conflict with each other.
Again, I'm not a dog expert. This may, I'd have to go really go back and check from my gray hairs as to whether or not we've had a case before. I don't recall one, off my head. But generally hunting dogs do make a lot of noise. And they do like to go after things, right? Or set you in motion to say it's over here. Which that would probably be the crossover if it was a guard dog. It's over there. But if it's again barking all the time, it's not telling you something, a threat is out there. So where exactly the crossover is, I don't know. In this particular instance, I know very little about the number of animals, number of dogs and their species and all that. And so I don't want to say that I know more than I do on the specifics because I don't have it.
Do we?
Well, I was wondering that, I was just wondering, is there like a ratio between like your farm size and how many dogs you have? To do that job? Like if you have 2 cows, can you have, is one guard dog efficient, or can that be whatever you wanted, like 13? The noise level would vary from that greatly, and it would, so. Is there any set rules for that?
Well, I would say sometimes it's like sending kids to do work, right? The more kids you send, the less work is going to get done because they're going to get planned. It's kind of the same with guard dogs, right? So I think there probably is a point where you've got saturation, overkill, where they're going to be goofing off. I mean, if you've got some for day and some for night, or an old one and a young one in training or something like that.
Yeah.
That may be kind of the norm, but generally you only see 1 or 2 very small numbers guard animals compared to the number of livestock. So there is no set ratio that we have. Maybe in other states where they're more prominent, they may have, but we don't have that here. But our experience from what we've seen through the years has been generally 1 or 2 or few.
Yeah, I've had friends that have working farms. They've had like 30 sheep, and they've had 2 Great Pyrenees mixed in with their animals that are in with them like that. And I mean, I want to thank everybody for being here and listening to this issue. I mean, we have Randy right here, the person that that's had the animals, and maybe Randy could tell us about his farm and stuff like that, and help us understand what he has for animals and what type of dogs and stuff.
Okay, free to take a seat then if we're.
Yeah. Randy, you want to say anything? Okay. Yeah. Anyone else?
I mean, this has been an ongoing issue for quite a while. And, we get shut down at every time we ask them. I mean, I think we have the right to know, what we're being, led to believe is a farm, and the farm dogs and with the constant barking. And just recently, there was a lot said on social media. A lot of people chimed in. It wasn't just a couple of people in Blueberry Lane, that also heard all the barking and were concerned about.
I think the town needs to have these answers for the future anyway, not even particularly this case, but there's other issues that are arising and will arise. And if we don't have any feedback and we're not getting any information to clarify, it's, that's why this keeps occurring, because it's not being handled, it's not being answered. There's just questions that we don't know.
Sometimes there are answers, but the town people are refusing to take those answers to for what.
Well, right now, there's
we don't have any feedback,
But I know that the subject has been taken care of before, according to some of the people in town, so I said that there wasn't any one state person as well. So sometimes you guys are outreaching for
We don't have
answers that suffice what you want, but versus what is needed for the whole time.
There's no proof given.
To my understanding, there is, I haven't been, this is my first town meeting I'm going to, I'm just following with what
Well,
I
right
see.
now
what
there's-
I've heard.
Right now, there's no answers, there's no documentation.
I mean, like,
So,
they say with the protection of the dogs, I mean, Randy, let me ask you, are your dogs kept in kennels and hooked to houses down there?
They're kept in kennels, but not half, not all of them.
But are they out running out loose with, what do you have for animals that is considered a farm?
What do you mean by what do I have for animals that are considered a farm?
Yeah,
I have cattle, I have pigs, I have chickens, geese and ducks. And turkeys.
now are your dogs out mixed in with them, protecting them?
They don't have to be mixed in with them to protect them, Randy, you know that.
How are they protecting them?
They let me know when someone's there. When something's going on.
There must be something.
Point of order.
Quite frequently.
Yeah.
Really.
All right, hold on. Yeah.
Things have to come through the chair, we can't, we'll get all confused, we start talking amongst each other. I have a question for Matt Randall. Did you check with Randy's facilities down there?
I have never been invited to.
No.
Oh, you never have? Okay. So you can't answer. There's no violations. If there was any violations with him, would it be brought to your attention? Would they be reported to you if anybody complained of violations?
If somebody made a complaint about the operation to the state, then it would, if it wasn't directly made to me, it would funnel to me.
And you haven't had any?
Right. Flies, odors, manure. So the only familiarity I have with this is the complaint of dogs, this exemption.
And there's any protocol that you would suggest from those complaints?
I work for everyone here, so just trying to get a resolve, but again, I think there are questions that people may have of me, either as a neighbor or as the owner, that we could identify and say, hey, we did our homework, here's the documentation that we found. These are the things that met the muster, these are things that need improvement. That type of thing, they would have for their file.
Brian?
Has there been any actual verification from anybody from the town or the state or whatnot to, verify what's been said?
Other than me going by Saturday, and seeing two calves out there. Like they were sitting there by the feed rack. That's all, I mean, I don't go check. I stopped there, 2 weeks ago, dropped off a check. Dogs weren't around. They were, I think they were just, I was in the house, I believe, there was no dogs outside. Cindy?
I've been there multiple times to see these animals, so I've even walked on the property and they've not even bark at me. So,
No, they're afraid of you.
a lot of things.
But they'll haul them to the boat.
Yes. Mhm.
I didn't, I just asked if I could do it, then the police guy showed up, put the cameras up, I never told him I was coming. But I went to one, I had already laid out where I was gonna put it, I went to one area, did it, the dogs come running up back to me, and I saw beautiful children. And you just let your owner know,
Mhm.
and they walked off. With no noise.
I've lived on Blueberry Lane for over 21 years. I know Randy, I know Brian, love the neighborhood, love living there. Nothing against anybody, but I can hear the dogs from my house. When I walk down the road, the dogs go crazy. Does it bother me at the beginning of the road? No. But do I hear it? Absolutely. Do they go all the time? Yes. Do I know it's that dog? Yes, because I walk down the road with my dog and I can hear the direction and it's been happening for years. It doesn't bother me, but if I lived next door, I can tell you I would be going out of my mind. It's a constant. Does people have rights, to animals and farms? Absolutely. Do I wanna pick and, that's not my job, I don't want to. I do think that this town needs some kind of ordinances in place for people that want farms and need space for them so that they don't have people complaining around them. And we are in the center, in most towns, we are so far behind, have some kind of property line where they can have, like, we're in the center of town. This is right here in the center, this is off of Main Street. Like, you can't get, so it should have, Randy has the land to provide a farm. So, that's his property and he has that, but not everybody, living this close to town should have that. Because of the noise level it might cause for for people complaining. So, this is why we're in troubles.
Right, but how long has Randy's been here before this town's been more built up than what it is? And I'm just asking because I am newer into this town, that I have seen a lot more areas being built up where farmlands are being taken and becoming more into a town versus what it was.
Right. We moved here, 2006, wasn't it?
Okay,
Yeah. We didn't have that many dogs.
Okay.
We had.
And it is now.
it's done.
No, easy.
You're going.
Yeah, let's stop going between.
Curious if how long has this farm been here and been established? 25 years. And then when has Blueberry Lane developed more around you? Like, were you there before Blueberry Lane had the 6 or 7 houses that are on
We put the road in,
there? Okay.
we built our house, not a soul was there.
That's
Okay.
not true.
Bullshit, it ain't.
Helen Napper,
Yeah,
Which is Diane.
Diane, she was there.
The Diane paid for that road being put in. Her uncle Carol graded the road to bring it to town specs because it was supposedly going to be turned over to the town, which it never was. They just took over the care of it. Dickie came down and made the cul-de-sac even bigger, and we applied to do that. When you moved in there, I had more dogs and more cattle and horses than I do now. And you haven't had a problem with it for 11 years, Brian.
Well, Randy, the dog.
yeah, stop going between each other.
Some.
Well, yeah,
And
well,
consider,
all right, Brian, we gotta keep it,
okay,
consider,
beagles and bears.
so, I guess we're gonna have to sit down and discuss this ourselves.
I don't know that we do.
I think,
At this point, we are following our ordinance. We've contacted our attorney. We've beat this right to death, and we have our suggestions that's in our authority in the best interest of the town, and we've done that. So anything further is up to them. It's up to the public to do it, not us.
if they would like to give us some type of an ordinance that, the people could vote on, people would have to vote on it.
They can file the petitions, they can come up with ordinances,
Yeah.
they can, there's procedures they can do. But to try to put it onto us to start prosecuting or whatever, it's not in our best interest for the benefit of the town.
Well, who enforces the ordinances?
The CEO, he's been advised of it, and we've gone to the attorney and we've had our responses.
Animal control.
And I had my exemption from the state.
Terry?
Hi, first of all, I have nothing but respect for Cindy and her job and what she does. I've read all of these laws. They are very, very gray. They are not black and white, and I think that's where there's been a lot of issues. I do think there's also some bias going on. I think that people have friendships and that bias is playing in. And perhaps you should recuse yourself when there is a bias, or the board, maybe the past board even, should have said that they felt that there was a bias.
Oh, there's no bias, I have no friends.
Right.
I had no friends, I lost my own mother, she had a dog with barking, trust me, I was.
So you've been directing this.
That's an accusation that doesn't deserve a response.
You have two, you just told me.
All right. Randy, is there anything you can do to help with this at all?
Since the 14th of November.
Hey. Okay,
I was asked not to put them on because I've had one killed. I've had one head stove in a year ago at the dog sled party.
ooh,
Yeah, and this is why I take offense to anybody walking, and everybody walks all over my ground. They cross country ski, they run their dogs around, which is fine. But when they're off leash, they come in my dog's back.
Well, also here,
if he's, I mean, he's trying, he put the back collars on, so I think that's a big step. To
There's
help.
other people around town other than Brian and these two here have made comments to me about how much quieter it is now since the 14th. You know, this could have been resolved, Brian, if you walk up the road and talk to me.
well, I had a neighbor that did try to do the same thing and that you weren't very kind to her.
Well,
So,
so we're gonna,
I met her out in the road when Cindy was coming to me. And you guys had opportunity because Rick asked you guys to
It's a
meet
civil.
in the
The
Lisa
the civil.
and Cindy and him
That's what it is.
and me.
That's what they all told us.
Emerald.
It's up to them, not us.
Yeah.
nobody's supposed to be there.
We'll end up in
Right.
a lawsuit.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
My house
right.
said he asked. Come have a meeting with Cindy, him and I and you and her. It's the result.
All right, let's.
Right. All right, we're gonna end this now. It's getting out of hand.
Can we listen to Randy? His thoughts are on this.
We can ask him, I mean,
I mean, the way it's going right now, this really is not gonna produce anything for any people that are being, just gonna.
well, I mean, Randy said he put back collars on it, if that has helped, I mean, I mean. I don't know, I mean, it's hard for us to see everything in town. I mean, I went by the other day, the cows were out, no dogs, no barking. I went to the clubhouse, I stayed there for a couple hours. I went for a ride around West Brownfield and went home. So I mean,
We have responded to everything that's been brought to us. We've taken it to the attorney, we've taken it to the CEO to go to the attorney. And we've addressed the issues that's come to the board in the best interest of the town, and we're doing is what was suggested. From what was brought to the board through the attorney. So from here on, if you have a complaint, file it in writing to the state or. Whatever your next step is for a civil suit, it's up to you guys.
John, you say you've done what's best interest for the town, but what about the people being affected by it?
Exactly, if you have a problem, take a
Yeah.
petition, go to the town.
Yeah.
We have to look at the overall town, we understand your complaint, we understand him. But you're both the same equal on with us, so we have to. Do what's in the best interest of the town as a whole. You bring up a petition, if you wanna put a petition for an ordinance, if you wanna file a complaint with the state. If you wanna go with what the attorney said, it's up to you, what you people want.
I just,
you want to listen to Matt, and then we're probably gonna make our decision.
find it interesting that Randy, you don't wanna give any feedback, but you're talking, but when we have direct
Well-
questions, you don't wanna answer them. But you're talking,
You have never been up my road to talk to me about anything. You're bitching about the guy behind you, about Lopez.
oh, I have problems with his
I know
talk
you.
too. And that's when I.
This was informational, this
Yeah.
was not for
Yeah.
anybody on the hot.
Yeah, this,
I was.
let's do this civil and back to him what you wanted to hear. This is the information. We're not here to argue or anything.
Or put anybody on the
Yeah.
hot seat,
Yeah.
that's not the purpose, I mean strictly information.
Matt, go ahead.
Well, I guess at this point, I mean, I've kind of made my presentation, obviously. I come at this from my experience,
Mhm.
and what the rule book says, which I agree, is generally gray. But I think if you do look at the black and white of it, it does say that, and I'm not sure what your barking dog ordinance is, but it does say dogs engaged in herding livestock or to agricultural guard dogs engaged in protecting livestock or warning the owners of danger to livestock, right? So there is a lot to be read in that. I'll leave that for higher powers. All I can do is be the person that gives the opinion in black and white as to whether or not the animals have what they need. Is the farm a farm, right? So that's what I can bring to the table today. I see that this is a very heated topic in town. I don't envy the people that have to be directly involved in this, right? I get to come in, do my piece, and then I'll go back out until you call me back in. But I think that there's certainly, we have people around the state that have dogs, and there's peace in the valley, if you will, right? So there's something here, there's gotta be some happy medium that can be achieved. As long as people use the process to say, hey, you know, we're all human, we get frustrated. You set those frustrations aside and look at the facts. What are the facts in this case? Yeah, that just somewhat concerning. The point being is that does this make the more information that is learned, does it strengthen this exemption or weaken this exemption? The department wants to make sure that this exemption is there for when people truly need it. Always the concern is that if it is not used appropriately, there could be a knee-jerk, reaction in Augusta, and people that desperately need this exemption could have it taken away, right? So when you join into the dog world and the livestock world, you're having to take everyone else's livelihoods in your hands at the same time, right? You're part of that. You're getting something that not everybody has, and you have to make sure that you're a good steward of them. And so I think that's where it may come down to, what do other people do? What can you take from their experiences and apply them in the situation? Is it the breed? Is it the number? Is it the channel? Is it shot collars? Are they doing their job? Were they not? Are you putting too much demand and expectations on the dogs? I don't know. I think there are a lot of questions to be answered here. I think that instead of being, I don't know that we're even midstream. I think there's a lot of discovery still to be.
John, you have a question?
Yeah, who's from the states to make sure that they're in compliance?
In terms of the ag compliance program, that falls to me, in terms of, farm side of things. I do not regulate dogs per se. The only involvement I have with regulating the dogs is the farm following best management practices, so it's a farm. Because if you don't have best management practices in place, we can pull your right to farm protection and we can fine you. Right? So if you're not a farm, do you need farm dogs? Do you need guardian dogs? You may never have needed them, but do you need them if you're not a farm?
So now if there's been a complaint, you'll follow up on
I have no complaint in my hand to say I need to go
that.
look
So it
at
has to be in writing.
Yeah, right, yes, email is best. Again, we went paperless many years ago, right? But yet we like our paper. Print things out, right? We're all still using it. So.
Brian?
Also, there's one thing you haven't been touched on, it's like, when you have a situation like this, Dick, you have a lot of home devaluation, property devaluation because of this situation like this. And I've talked to realtors, and it's very true. So.
And at that point, it definitely becomes a individual problem, not the town.
Well, ordinances state that you can't devalue your neighbor's property, right now, town ordinances.
That's right.
And it would also fall under the nuisance ordinance. How many complaints do you have to have before it becomes a nuisance? Before the ordinance is taken into effect?
It's true.
You want to answer that one?
We need it then. What about the dog or
That would
about the
fall,
farm?
that would fall under the CEO.
CEO, if it's a nuisance, but nuisance dogs has to do something. Wait a second, I got right here in my handbook. I've figured all these questions out already. I did.
There's a lot
A
of.
nuisance dog means a dog with wolf hybrid causes bodily injury other than serious bodily injury, an individual, a domestic animal who is not trusted on a dog or wolf, hybrid owners or keepers premises at the time of the injury of the dog. A hybrid causing reasonable pursuit of a person who is not the dog of hybrid owner's keeper. And it goes on and on and on. That's my nuisance dog. So that's my nuisance.
So barking is not a nuisance, continual like that?
He falls under that.
And also, there's been several times, when I call 911 during the late night, and all they do is they refer you back to the ACO, and I get a text from Cindy says he's exempt, he runs a farm. So you try to go through the proper channels, and you just get shut down at every door.
Cause I've done my investigation on that.
So then you go to the next step.
So you as a governing body, you want us to go spend a bunch of money to,
You're asking us to get the law, get the town to lawsuit.
town, Joe. I hate to tell you that, the three of you guys are the governing body, and you're supposed to deal with issues like this, rather than just say we can't do anything.
Well, there's no point in having the ordinances in effect if they're not being enforced.
And
I mean, it's foolish.
they're not listening to us.
No, I think, I mean, Randy has put back calls on, he's trying to do something. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it works. You know, hopefully that takes care of, you know, most of it and, go from there for a while and see what happens. I mean,
Other dogs in town.
mhm.
It's not all right in that area. When I go out and about, do different things, I hear it other dogs, other hounds.
Those aren't our issues.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
go ahead. Stop back and forth. Hold on. The girl, I just. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Posted on the social media when with this, that you can't, relative of Randy's, you can't use a dog collar on hunting dogs. Because they're bred for hunting. And they're bred to bark, and you can't put that on them. So. That's a temporary, it's not really, the dogs are for hunting. That's what type the dog breed is, whether that's what they're for, that's what the dog is bred for, so that dog collar doesn't work.
Really?
Well,
I
that's what the Facebook
Yeah.
message said,
I-
explaining the dog.
I think, and, I do know of another person, in East Conway that has hunting dogs. And he put back collars on his hunting dog and it's working fine. So,
Facebook. from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
family, saying that.
if it's on Facebook, I don't believe half of it. Honestly. I don't even look at it, any of that stuff.
Is close to the dogs that's telling you this.
Yeah.
And take that in.
Yeah.
Whether it's on Facebook.
Carrie, do you have something?
Just gonna say, this whole thing just seems so convoluted and gray. I wish before anybody spends money with lawyers, that maybe the select board could sit behind closed doors with the primaries and try and see if you can come up with a solution. And again, Cindy, I know you're trying to do your job to the best of your ability, but honestly, those laws are so gray and so vague. And we talked about dog jobs. I am very familiar with dogs and dog jobs. I don't know how a dog can be a guardian dog and then go off and be a hunting dog. How do they turn that off? That's very confusing to those dogs, to have two different jobs. Yes,
Yeah,
in my opinion it is.
You've not been around it. Because when these dogs see something coming into their field, they bark. When somebody walks in the woods, they bark.
Apparently,
That
I'm taking into account what Matt said as well, and I'm taking
They're trying to
into
read
account
what
what we
suckers.
dog working, and you overwork them, they become overstimulated, they shut down. They either stop barking altogether or they bark incessantly.
How many dogs do you have, Randy?
14,
And how many cows do you have?
2,
Two.
home.
Brian?
Also, on some interesting of that, the ACO has accused me of yelling and swearing at her, and she has witness, and that is totally false. I have never yelled at her, I've never sworn at her, anything of that nature. And I do not appreciate that, being on a public post.
All right, you wanna take an advisement? You wanna make a decision? What do you wanna do? Just see how it goes for a month or so?
I say we stick to what the attorney advised us and, let them take it to the next step, and then whatever they come up with. It's a civil matter, period.
It's easy to say that, John, but it's a town matter and it's on our street.
Then as a town, you bring it back to us and we get advice from our attorney. As a town, not as 5 or 6 people, whatever the next procedure is to.
People.
I'm gonna say one thing, if you made an ordinance right now, okay, that said that they couldn't bark at all, it would not affect his situation where he's already there. So there's gonna be a fine line in here eventually, where you're gonna have to figure out the animal control laws and how things work, because he's existing, which makes it very difficult for us to make any decisions because he's already there. He's been there 25 years.
So that exempts him, Dick?
It is because he's already there. How do you, if you made a new law today, no dogs in the town could bark once, that does not affect him.
It's still not following procedure.
Right,
Your procedures, if you want the town involved, you're all equal to us. If you want us to act again, go get a petition, whatever your next step is, go do it and then bring it to us. If you go get 75 or 100 signatures or whatever it takes for the town to become involved and want us to move and act on it, it's the town's decision, not ours.
Jed?
I'm new. I've been here a while, but I'm still new. He's been there 25 years, right? He was there first. So he's exempt, right? Even if you put in a new ordinance, he's gonna be exempt. So if he was there first and he's had a farm for over 25 years, technically there's nothing the town can do about it anyways. Because they all moved in on him. They knew he was there when they bought the property.
There was none of this barking issue
Yeah,
going on.
there's,
But he had a farm. He had it. And if I'm told from what I hear around town, he also trains dogs for hunting, so they're gonna bark.
yeah, and he's trying to do something. I mean, I'm not anybody's friend at this point here. I'm sitting in this chair. And I'm just hearing what he just said to us. I get mad at my own dog if it barks. So I mean, I understand where everybody's coming from. But when I know if I had 5 dogs, one barks, all the others will stop barking too. You're not gonna stop them. I mean, that's just the way they are.
But even if we put in a new ordinance today,
Not gonna do a thing.
he's still gonna be exempt and he's still gonna be able to continue his business the way he goes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Why don't we clarify this instead of dragging this out over and over and over? If the question is, if it's a farm, a legit farm to fall into that exemption,
Mhm.
then when we have the agriculture guy here, why wouldn't Randy save himself a lot of hassle and say, I invite you over, come see, here we go. And then if he, and then
You
if.
walk the road all the time, but you never stop.
No, the farm agriculture.
Randy,
place.
City has told us in the past that you do not want anybody on the cross.
But if we have him here now, if he's willing, and Randy's willing to go walk the farm and see if it's a farm, then it will save Randy the trouble. It will save all of us the trouble of saying this exemption, because I think that's what's in question. Is this a legal exemption? Because with the barking. So if he goes, I don't know if you're willing to, and if Randy's willing to, but that would solve you guys and us a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be documented.
Are you
right.
willing to have him come down? Okay, Matt, are you willing to go down, visit him?
Is that, where this is a heated, topic, that if there's other parties that need to, walk along, whoever, is invited and he's comfortable with, should probably be there all to see and hear the same thing.
I'll go down.
Mhm.
We have no control officer in town.
Do you think that's appropriate or should it be done legally in writing and documented?
Because why make a complaint if if both parties are willing. I mean, I just think it's a much
All right.
smoother operation if you don't have to have a complaint.
It's not our decision.
Jen?
One last question. If they go up there and they do this,
Mhm.
and by chance, the guy from Maine agrees that this is a farm, is this gonna stop the arguments in the town?
Well, it kind of has to. Well, then they're just stuck in blowing smoke.
I'm just saying, if he goes up there and says, yes, it is a farm, he is in legal standards, he's doing everything right, is it gonna stop all the bickering? Or if he says that, are they gonna continue to still fight saying we need more?
If he says it's a farm, then it becomes a totally a civil matter and not the town has nothing to do with it.
Okay,
The board, I don't believe will act unless we get something in writing. Is that
I have
correct?
no, you just said,
Spoke to me there
if
an hour ago.
he goes up there and it is legal,
Hold on.
the town doesn't have to be involved.
Can you, either of you guys go with them?
I will.
Okay,
You-
all right.
you-
Right.
you can go there.
I don't care,
Go ahead.
you can come, you can come, I don't care. I have nothing to
I
hide,
think, well, everybody's in agreement here.
you've been there.
Yeah,
So in order to clarify that it is a working farm, there needs to be, again, I'm going on what you had asked, there needs to be income. So does that have to be, like, in order to close it?
Mhm.
So you're gonna go see if it's a farm and. But, you know, as far as and like the state is, what I'm trying to say, it doesn't really clarify. That's where the problem lies, not with you guys, not with us, the state's clarification to prove for exemptions. You know, that's where the gray line is coming with everybody getting.
and they're both willing to do this now, so I think it should happen.
On a yearly basis for this exemption and clarification.
That would be up to Randy and Diane. We don't see any.
Do you file paperwork with the state for this exemption, Randy?
I don't have any exemption, Brian. I do everything mostly on cash.
No, the exemption is that you have a farm.
You're gonna make $2,000, I make
I
$2,400
know
last year, I don't
on
have
the
it.
board.
Yeah. Okay. That's.
Matt, could you please send us a observance report or observation, what you observed when you were with Randy? Sometime, not today, but.
So while there was some discussion, I'm not poised to go right after this meeting. I think we need to set a time to go.
Okay, yeah.
like, for everybody's schedule.
Yeah, if you could just send us a report of your observation.
Yeah, make a time with Randy and then, we'll see what we can do. Gary?
I'd just like to ask that when that does do that, that both sides are represented
Mhm.
neutrally. And that it doesn't go forward if one can't make it, that it's canceled altogether. Cause, you know.
Well, if Randy can't make it or he can't make it, it would be, but other than that, they're the two primaries. One of us is gonna be there and, you know, if there's a couple of neighbors that wanna be there, I think that's fine. I just. Right.
So I think that, you know, the board.
Yep, it's up to them two to make the time and then we can fill in.
Person, neutral. To go along with.
This is a consensual thing between Randy and Matt.
Yeah,
Consensual, they're on the board.
I'm just saying that I'd like to make sure that.
Frank, no.
and if we said that somebody would be there. Somebody would be there.
I'm retired, I can make.
Yes, sir. Brian?
Jimmy, street or place have to do to disqualify you from any of this issue?
We never said it did.
Yes, absolutely. did. You said. you-
Oh, from-
first,
from an
to
ordinance?
the extent.
Because they've already been there.
Yeah.
It's just like any big farm anywhere. It's already been there. Houses grow up around it.
Grandfather.
That's true.
Everything's grandfathered in for what they're doing.
But Dick, the issue here is not that there's a big working farm. The issue is the barking dogs.
But there's a lot of mom and pop farms in the state of Maine, and they make up probably 70% of the farms in the state of Maine. You know, and raise a couple of beef animals, they sell one, or sell, you know. 3/4 of them, and they keep 1/4 themselves, which maybe their meat is free that year, you know, but maybe they put so much into them that they're still losing, but, you know, it's a gamble in a farm, well, the girl behind you is got there first, so.
I guess what brings the heat of this is that. As he's the agriculture guy told us, is that usually there's 1 or 2 dogs. So this is where the problem lies with the exemption. So he, as Randy stated, he has 13 or 14, I forget what he said. But that would be the volume difference of you know, the neighbors complaining. That makes a difference in the noise level. So when you have frustrated neighbors, that's where that is coming from with the exemption.
I believe, and I'm not 100% sure. Your dogs are bear hunting dogs? Okay. So, and he has a kennel license?
Yeah, 3 kennel licenses.
Okay, so. This, I don't know where to go with this, okay, and right now, we're trying to get something figured out. Everybody's in agreement that they want to get it figured out, so let's do this. And go from there. I think Randy's trying to work on it. Matt's willing to do it. I just, you know, if everybody else would just say, hey, okay, stop, let's see how this goes, and then go from there. That's what we need to do. We all need to come together in this and see how it works out.
And that allows the exemption for the working farm, then the state doesn't clarify how many dogs are allowed for that working farm. So you know what I mean? So
that's the other side, is why I asked her if he had a kennel license. But he has 3 of them. So Chad.
Okay,
Hold on.
2.
All right.
So that's where
Let Chad go ahead.
okay. The town doesn't have an ordinance. A person, you're gonna now tell a person how many dogs they can own.
only for the exemption.
No. You're saying if he's exempt for the farms, then it leads back to the dogs. So now you're gonna tell him how many dogs he can have on his property when he has 3 kennel licenses.
No.
He trains for dogs for hunting. It's like me. I have 5 dogs. I'll admit it. I don't care. I have 5 dogs. So you're gonna tell me as an individual person how many dogs I can have. Alice raises dogs for her dog sled. No, for dog sledding. So she has 12 to 15 dogs, and you're gonna tell her how many dogs she can have.
No.
That's what this is coming to.
I hope not.
No, that's what they're requesting.
No,
No.
it just would go under the regular ordinance of the town. The regular ordinance has a volume, it has a volume level where you can get in trouble if you can get in trouble if your dogs are too loud.
Right. The ordinance also says.
No.
The ordinance also says you can bark from the 8 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night with a minimum of 20 minutes.
No.
Then you have to
No.
shut them down.
Nothing. No. None of that. No.
But it is from 8 to 10.
No.
Oh, there is no order.
No. 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 All right, so we're getting into way beyond where we were, okay? We have an agreement, and everybody seems like they want to piss everybody off, they don't have an agreement. So let's all come together, let's get the agreement done, see how it works, and go from there.
Right. The only
Okay.
thing
But that's,
is that if Matt goes up there and says he's a farm.
Mhm.
They're going back to the dogs.
And it's civil, because.
it's a civil matter at that point, that there's no limit to dogs in the town. If somebody tries to put that through the town people have to vote on it, so I don't think it would ever go. All right?
Yeah.
I'll just. Thinking of attending a meeting. It was the Department of Agriculture,
Yep, Matt Randall.
1 selectman,
It's or 2 or 3, whatever. Randy doesn't mind any.
as long as it's a legal meeting.
Oh, yeah.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going as a dog owner.
So the ones that I have
Yeah.
down, was there anybody?
Just
I'll go.
Chad will go, the young lady up there, I think, wanted to go.
Who?
If you, is that what you want? I mean, okay, so, I mean, and hopefully, I mean, it's really just those two. Having to make talking about things and back and forth, and hopefully it doesn't get into a fishing match between everybody, because that's not what we're here for, that's really not what anybody else wants.
May we suggest that it's strictly informational and this crucifying stuff will be put aside and put to facts.
Yeah.
We just want facts on the table,
Okay.
and then at the end of it, we'll
Some question.
find out what the conclusions are.
What is it subject? Allowed of being, your property being devalued, not just mine, but other people's.
That's a civil matter, a whole different matter. And that's, well, it's a fact. Write it down. Don't argue it, write it down. Bring all your facts, put all the facts on the table, write it
Chad
down.
is first, then I'll give you Cindy.
When we go to this meeting.
Mhm.
The selectmen that show up.
Mhm.
Should keep the other people back as crowd control, basically, so Randy and Matt can walk the property
Mhm.
and discuss stuff without anybody bitching and moaning.
Including you?
Including me.
Let me tell you something about
Go
that.
ahead, Frank.
That's why I said the selectmen control
Would
everything.
that be out of, would that be out
We're,
of
all-
order?
Hold on. No,
we're only going there so that we, later on, they can't say he said, she said.
Right,
It's between the state and Randy whether or not he's got an exemption. And that's all there is to it. It's not up to us to decide.
right.
Cindy?
Just the guide rules, whatever you wanna call it. When we do go to Randy's property, the only two that should be speaking is Randy and Matt.
That's what we said, yep, yep,
That's all.
yep. So,
Shut Facebook down, we'll have a lot less problem.
I'll have.
Just ahead.
I'll entertain motion.
For the whole thing, we presented that to the attorney.
Yep.
And it was borderline ethical. So try to be careful because of.
Okay.
That's when you get into met freedom of press.
Well, we
Love
do,
that. No,
John,
that's-
John, you're getting right back into it. All right?
I'm gonna make a motion to close the meeting, because I think.
I'll say,
You said that? All in favor? Done. Oh, Matt, go ahead.
Suggested and or asked for people, just given the heat of the issue, that I don't have the ability to invite anyone on, so everything.
Yeah, that's up to Randy, yeah.
With that said, as we get ready to schedule this, it may be prudent for someone from the animal welfare program, since this exemption sits in their rule book, to attend with me. So I would ask that as we schedule this, if in my discussion with them, they decide that it would be prudent, that would be a person that I would seek permission to bring in. So I don't want to seem, here we are in a public forum.
Yeah.
I want to put that out there because I don't want to seem like the person who changed the deal after it was made.
Yeah.
So I would ask them.
Yeah, Bill,
Yeah.
And see
Yeah,
if it prudent from their management,
I haven't.
send someone. And so that would be who I would, potentially just ask,
Okay.
other than who's already.
Can I say something on that one too?
Yeah.
I do know the agents in the state are really backed up, you know that, handling backlogs and stuff, so it could be a while for
Well-
our state.
I
Yeah.
do have a little pull.
Oh, okay, good, good, you do it.
All right, Cindy, no.
No.
No,
Yes,
Okay.
I just wanted it to be part of the record.
okay. Thank you, Matt. All right. All in favor? Done. We're closed. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.